If you listen this podcast and say, okay, I work for a boring corporation, what can I do? I have a good news for you. You can for now the solutions of earth observation are very are way cheaper now, and they can provide a lot of insights combined with machine learning. So if you're working for a refinery or working for I don't know for mining company, you can use those instruments, and it makes sense.
We're in a world that is changing really quickly right now. I think technologically changing faster than it ever has before.
Mm-hmm.
Societal implications, we won't even go there, but they're kind of terrifying. I think nobody really knows what the implications of all this are going to be. Where do you find yourself getting most excited by the change that's happening around us? Is there some aspect of technology? Is there some kind of vertical scenario? What gets you going and you're just like, wow, this makes me an optimist?
Uh, First of all, as I said, I'm a rocket scientist, and I've been passionate about space since 5 years old. So one of the industries I would like and I try to contribute to is aerospace technologies. And
Yeah.
of course, so when an ordinary person hears about space tech, they say, "Oh, build another rocket," but it's not about that already. And there are many people besides Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos who are doing amazing things. And if you listen this podcast and say, okay, I work for a boring corporation, what can I do? I have a good news for you. You can for now the solutions of Earth observation are are way cheaper now, and they can provide a lot of insights combined with machine learning. So if you're working for a refinery or working for I don't know for mining company, you can use those instruments, and it makes sense. And this is
Well,
you
okay,
all.
hang on. Let's make that more real. Inspire me. I work for a big manufacturing firm or a construction firm, whatever. I don't think about space. I don't
Okay.
think about near Earth observation. What help me though? What? How should I be inspired? What should I be thinking about?
Yeah. So first of all, speaking of inspiration, as I said, 2 years ago, I decided to contribute to the industry, and I joined forces with my friends, and we started a media blog, Space Ambition. We wrote more than 80 articles, and including some specific use cases. So what we do, okay, Earth observation combined with carbon capturing, how we can do that, what are the solutions, what are the startups, and we give the examples. Or a few weeks ago we published an article about unusual cases, how you can monitor something. For example, you can monitor how the vessels move across the
Yep.
planet, and understand how it could impact, for example, for the prices of oil.
Yep.
You just
Or any
detect that.
inputs, perhaps, into my assembly process. Yeah.
Yes, or and this is actually a very well-known case. For example, using Earth observations just to count the number of cars parked at supermarket and forecast the revenue. And actually, now we're in the position in the point where you just need to experiment with more ideas what you could do with those data which are accessible. Because if you look at machine learning, many companies use machine learning now. 20 years ago, I do artificial intelligence, machine learning, everyone say, oh, you're crazy or what. And now, and at some point it became so accessible, it became so cheap, so many people started to experiment with this. And this is what happening, for example, with observation right now, because dozens of constellations are launched. It becomes, the prices are going down, and people, even like such people as traders, experiment with those data, because during pandemic, for example, some trade if I'm not mistaken, Bloomberg used Earth observation just to monitor the economic activity of China,
Amazing.
understanding like what's
Yep.
happening. And you can try to think about like there are so many data available in various spectrums, and what the if you're like a geographically distributed have geographically distributed assets, just think about what you can see from them, like using all those new types of satellite imaging. And the last thing I want to mention now, like in the next coming of there are already several constellations which shoot the Earth in 3D.
Yep.
Like you have the 3D picture of the whole Earth, and there are several more constellations which will be providing uh, those solutions like in better quality. So you can, for example, if you have a 3D picture of like the whole planet, you can have a 3D picture, for example, of a building, and you can track the progress. You don't
Well, and
need
it
for
and it makes this whole notion of like, digital twins and hybridizing them with the real world for all kinds of scenarios so fascinating. Like, I think it's unbelievable, and I do think there's something to be said for trying to find the inspiration that gets people to be curious about what might be possible in my industry,
yeah,
right?
and
Because again, like financial planners at supermarkets are probably not thinking about how near Earth observation can help them understand foot traffic in their stores.
yeah, and
But
this is actually why we try to find some examples and show them. For example, we wrote an article how police and governments could use solutions for investigation. For example, police governments in Brazil uses Earth observation to track those illegal for deforestation,
yep.
and stuff like that.
I've
Yeah,
seen I've
so
seen scenarios like that in Korea, I think it was as well. Not so much for deforestation, but to try and track where popular campsites were popping up, so that safety services could be
mhm.
pre-located. Like all kinds of like rescue services. There's all kinds of cool stuff that you really don't think about until you start to realize, oh, what
And
if what if I could watch?
well, yeah, one aha moment for us when we started Space Ambition was we talked to one trader from the Wall Street, and he said like they spend like tons of money to get a fiber cable, and they didn't even think about satellite communication, which was good for their specific case. Not for all cases, but for their specific case, it was 10 times cheaper, but they didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
So, and this struck us because people just don't think about, that the instruments are already available, but they think, oh, like, launching a rocket, like it's mind blowing, or just don't even think about it. And let alone that oftentimes you think about the space technologies, like, straightforward. I'm building a rocket, etc. But the reality is, oftentimes the technologies which are developed for space could be commercialized on Earth. And a good example is Nike, decades ago, were the first to commercialize the technology of for sneakers, which was developed for Apollo program. And 10% of the mattresses, like orthopedic mattresses we use in the world, they are built
Fall.
on the technologies which were developed for Apollo program for
Yeah.
cushioning the astronauts. So the very interesting approach is to look into some solution you already have and how you can repurpose it for a bigger industry. A good example is Starlink. Like you have $1 trillion industry of internet. There are many places in the world where like you don't have internet or whatever. What if I take 1% of this market and get a 20 like 13
Dude,
billion dollar market?
Dennis, I got to tell you, I just set up my first Starlink dish today. This morning, I set it up. I'm using it for some off grid where I still want to be connected activity. It was mind blowing. Like it took me I don't know, 6 minutes to get a 200 megabit connection, right, in my backyard. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, this is incredible. Obviously, at home, I don't need it. I live in an urban area. There's wires coming to my house. But it's
I
unbelievable what that opens up, the possibility of pervasive connectivity. And I think I do think you're right. We don't think about this. We think about the limitations all too often.